Grandmaster Hans Niemann lost in just 12 moves. And it wasn't just any game, it was in the opening that Hans Niemann has a chessboard course on. The self-proclaimed greatest chess course ever made. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I'll leave a link in the description below. It's worth checking out for a good laugh after you watch the rest of this video. So let me set the stage real quick. It's the FIDE World Rapid Chess Championship. FIDE brought 178 of the best players in the world to play against each other in the Almaty, Kazakhstan venue. Hans actually started off super hot. Out of the first 8 rounds, he had 5.5 points. And if you extrapolate that to the end of the tournament, the full 13 rounds, he would have placed in the top 10 in the world. But unfortunately, the game that you're about to see is part of the last 5 games where Hans Niemann went winless. Talk about an implosion. But in this game, it starts with d4 and knight f6. And after they play a Shigorin opening, we get bishop f4 and black strikes out with c5. Hans is like, okay, I'm going to strike out with e4 and see what you do. The knight takes, the knights both come off the board. And after d takes c5, well, black takes a fork out and says, look, I am going to win a pawn. I am forking your king and your pawn, and what are you going to do? c3, queen takes. Actually, after c3, well, this light square diagonal is now open, and white's like, you have a fork? Well, I also have a fork, and I'm going to play queen a4, forking your king and your pawn. So after knight comes out and takes, we have g6. At this point, Hans Niemann has like 16 minutes and 20 seconds on his clock. Well, it's a rapid 15-minute game, so how does he have 16 minutes on his clock? The format of the tournament is 15-10, which means that you start with 15 minutes, but every move you make, you get an incremental 10 seconds. So after 9 moves, Hans has spent an average of 1 second per move. And the trend continues. He plays knight f3, and bishop g7 comes out, and then a very innocent developing move, bishop e2. You see the eval bar absolutely plummet. It is like an avalanche, right? Except in this case, it's a black avalanche, not a white avalanche. Well, this is where the opening trap ensues. Let me flip the board and give you a moment to pause and try to solve this. There's one move that is absolutely winning for black here. If you need a hint, then just look at my shirt. That's right, here black is like, remember that fork from before? Well, forget about that because we got a giant fork. Bishop takes c3, and if you take, then you're just absolutely getting forked into oblivion, because if you defend, then your rook is just completely lost, and this is miserable, right? Instead of all this, okay, we do get bishop c3. Let me flip the board back, and Hans sees all that danger, so he doesn't take with the b-pawn. Instead, he tries to block with the knight and fight on a little bit longer. The only issue with that is that Hans gets KO'd with the next punch, bishop f5. Hans Niemann immediately resigns, just shakes hands, moves on to the next round. And why is this so bad though? Because after queen f3, or just moving the queen anywhere in general, now the b-pawn falls, and this rook is in jail. And it is not any jail. It is like Alcatraz. Like, if you try to swim away, you are never making it to the shoreline. I mean, look at the power of these two bishops. And sure, you might try to play something real fancy and, you know, go play knight b3 to hit the queen and open up the rook for room to escape. But honestly, all you need to do for black is queen c3 check. Because it's check, you don't really have any options. If you try to block, well, queen just takes, you take, and you are still losing that rook. So after Hans Niemann crumbled in the second half of the World Rapid Championship, he went from being projected to a top 10 finish all the way down to 98th out of 178 players. While Hans has held on to slightly above or slightly below that 2700 Super Grandmaster level, he's been wildly inconsistent. So what do you think his true playing strength actually is? Let me know in the comments below. Also, only like 1% of viewers are actually subscribed, so if you made it this far, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. It helps out a ton. If you want to see more content about Hans Niemann's games, then go check out this video over here. Happy learning, everyone.